Hey everybody, welcome back to Jordan Lee Tarot. So just to update everybody, I was away, I am back and should be posting on the regular for a while now. I had a work trip and then I got sick when I came back. So lots to say about all that, and I'm gonna jump right into some of the details of the decks as I explain. So this is the Astera deck. This is an Etsy independent deck. So I always say grab it if you love it, because I never know when those things are kind of gonna, not be available anymore, especially on Etsy. The True Love Oracle deck, I love this deck because the descriptions are way more modern day focused, whereas some of the more Dorian Virtue romance angel decks I find a little bit archaic, or just too basic. This deck dives a little bit deeper into that. I think this is going to be a love reading today, but again, I never can tell. These are the decks that jumped out at me. The Spiritual Animal Wisdom deck is not a deck that I normally reach for because it's a little bit more esoteric. And I actually like to bring the esoteric into my own interpretation. I don't like to be told all of the esoteric stuff. So I actually find the less information I get about the cards, the better. So I don't often use this guidebook. I might for this reading, because again, sometimes specific messages come out that the deck wants to say and that the guidebook has, information on. So as I shuffle and start to jump into this reading, I want to say a few different things because it always feels like there's double messages sometimes. And the first one is, when I got back, I was sick. And I found that I was feeling sick in a way that I'd been sick before. And I remember going through Ascension Symptoms at multiple times in my journey, and it felt like another Ascension symptom. And I said, haven't I gone through this before? And they said, yes, but you have shifted timelines so drastically that you actually need to go through these Ascension symptoms again. And I'm like, well, that's bullshit. So there's some message in here for someone or a collective who had multiple awakenings, multiple ascensions, and hopped timelines so many times, that you've gone through multiple ascension symptoms, not just going from one level to the next, but going from one timeline to another timeline and kind of needing to pay the energetic piper, right? To bring yourself into that frequency. And I always say that we ourselves are walking crystals. We are a walking frequency, and we have a medicine that is our frequency. Now, that is when it's calibrated correctly and you're in that higher energetic resonance of what is your highest energetic resonance. That does not equal someone else's higher or highest energetic resonance. So understand that it's a unique frequency. Your highest frequency is specific. This isn't about ascending out of like all of the lower chakras. And this isn't about bypassing your human experience. It's just about what is your main predominant frequency tone? What is it most of the time? And I find that the higher your frequency is, or the closer you are to your highest frequency, you repel people. People might be drawn to initially, but they can't hold that energy, and so they quickly leave. That's been my experience. And I think that there's a divine protection in that. So that if you feel like you're going in and out of a reality or you're repeating cycles, it's because your energetic frequency hasn't solidified into your higher timeline's frequency. So that is the most plain and simple way that I can explain that. And I'm going to keep pulling cards. So I want to get into this reading, but I feel like there is a double message here. And that is of energetic maintenance. Energetic maintenance is very important because as someone who is a healer, and I know that other healers are watching this channel, you may not be a healer in a traditional sense. You may not be doing Reiki or offering body work, but you are a healer. If you're here, you're a healer. You're a curse breaker. You would not have found my energy specifically because, again, this is not a large channel. This is not something that I put a lot of time and energy into like spreading out everywhere. I always find that the people that need it are going to find it. and hopefully my channel grows, but understand that people are coming into their highest timeline and holding that frequency longer and longer and longer. And to do that and really stay in that frequency, you need to be energetically regulated. Your energy needs cleared. So in 2018, I was giving advice to my clients saying you should probably get your chakras balanced every 3 months to 6 months. Just to keep, again, this is to operate at an optimal level. People who are paying attention very often to their energetic resonance. These people are going to need to keep themselves maintained at 3 to 6 months. Now, right now, in 2026, in April of 2026, I would say that you need to balance your chakras every other day, check in with your frequency daily, and definitely do like Epsom salt cleansing with, soaking your feet or whatever way that feels right. Some people like to go to like the salt rooms and things like that. But again, creating a daily practice or an every other day practice of cleansing your energy, very important. What I think I'm talking about, or what I hope that I'm tapping into, is just this deep awareness that there is so much energetic pollution being pumped into the atmosphere, our world. Even if you're not in a lot of communal spaces and you stay in your own little condensed bubble, energies can get in through even the slightest whiff of fear or I don't know about you, but sometimes even when I'm watching things that are curated, like I watch YouTube a lot because it's curated, it's real people creating real videos. And, that real authentic vibrational frequency is where I resonate at. I don't often like the fake. It really bothers me, or like my attention doesn't stick with it. I'm like, oh, that's not for me anymore. Like I just don't pay attention to a lot of what's going on in the mainstream media. And that doesn't mean that I am burying my head in the sand. I try to stay a little bit informed, but again, there's this self-preservation of understanding that keeping my energy and my frequency clear and cleansed is the best way, the truly best way, because then I'm divinely inspired and I'm tapped into my higher self and I can do the things that I am here to do. And so I think what this message initially is coming through as is that it's very important to energetically maintain that that cleansed feeling for you. Like I'm seeing when you go to the dentist and you get your teeth cleaned, you're like rubbing your teeth with your tongue all day because your teeth feel the cleanest they've felt in such a long time, right? That feeling is so nice. Imagine that being your energetic field and like getting used to that clean feeling and not wanting to be bombarded with the pollution, the energetic pollution that runs rampant right now. Very important to be aware that you're not crazy, that it is happening, and you just need to spend more time and energy cleansing, recalibrating your energy so that you can do what you were brought here to do. So, yeah. Again, like 2018, I think. Most people were good, like cleanse your energetic field, every 3 months, maybe 6 months. If you're in a, good situation, everything's flowing, just to keep yourself in tip-top shape. Now saying that it needs to be every other day is not an exaggeration. Whether you're working from home or you're going out somewhere to work or you're traveling, it's very, very needed. So I need to say that to somebody, to a group of people who need to understand there really is more energetic pollution than there has ever been. And so if you want to talk about that quiet revolution, it's keeping yourself cleansed, clear, understanding that things are not as they should be. And when I say should be, I mean, at that highest optimal timeline. Like there's only so much that humans can do to mess up their reality. And then there's like an artificial intervention of speeding up the process. And that's happening right now. My dog agrees. He's barking in the background. All right, let's get into your reading. So the first card that jumped out was the golden unicorn, which says ascension, awaken to your soul's potential. I think that's very apropos. All right, honeybee, divine feminine, you are being called on to rise. I think this collective is really being called upon to grow and evolve. Hare, strength, take time to make clear decisions, bring awareness and light to the situation, which I think is any given situation. So that aspect of the divine feminine feels like intuition. So do not click off if you are a masculine energy and think, oh, this is just a message for the ladies or someone who identifies as female. That's not the case. This energy is of, rising as a collective, the consciousness itself, tapping into the feminine energy, which is intuition, and lifting that awareness and understanding of what's going on. Now, everything that I say is not to freak people out. It's just to be informed. It's kind of like peeking your head into the news just to see what crazy is on the dock right now, like what's going on in the stage play right now. But don't get triggered by it. Don't give away any of your energy to it. Just pop your head in, see what's going on, and pop your head back out. Probably recalibrate, energetically cleanse, and just kind of feel into, okay, does this affect me? A lot of times I think you're going to understand that the answer is no, because I think we're being pulled back into smaller communities, local awareness of what's going on in our neighborhoods, helping out the people who are closest to us, and obviously trying to support small business, because we all know that big business is gobbling everything up. I mean, it's a gross energy. Nobody wants it. Nobody really actually wants it. So I think being minimally informed and a constant energetic awareness is necessary. So for those of us that live in our heads or are internally minded, this is more natural to us. And so for those that I'm talking to that are more external focused, this might actually be very uncomfortable for you to do a lot of inner reflection, understand where your energetic field is, understand all of the things that are going on and how they affect you internally when the door closes, when there's no more outside noise, when your phone is off, when you're just sitting there quietly. Where are you at? Before I came to do this reading, I sat in front of my mirror, and I always actually reapply lipstick just because of visually being able to see my face better. Put on lipstick, sat there in front of the mirror, and looked at myself. And I can honestly say that I have a really good relationship with myself, which took a very long time to cultivate. This was not a fast process. But to be able to look at myself in the mirror and say, I love you. I love who you've become. You are nailing this. That energy does not come natural to people who are naturally externally focused. And so to ask them to bring that awareness in feels so unnatural. So I'm putting this out there for those of us that are internally focused, makes perfect sense. Those of us that are externally focused feels unnatural. But I'm telling you that the key to working through what the world is going through, the energetic growing pains of the world, you're going to need to be internally focused and aware. Not that you don't pay attention to those around you, your loved ones, but I'm saying you need to be able to figure out where you are and recalibrate yourself often. And that takes a lot of mindfulness, and it takes more energy than we're used to offering our internal world if we're not naturally prone to do that. The world does not encourage that. The world encourages outside of us constantly. So there's a definite rebirth coming in for this collective. And this is not the Kundalini card, though there is one in this deck, but I do get the Kundalini card energy a little bit with this rebirth. I might actually read the definition on this because of the snake. I feel like it has more energy to it. The masculine. That's beautiful. So we have the divine feminine here. We have the masculine. As I jump into this other deck, we've got sexuality, the distorted masculine, and emotional freedom. So I am definitely sensing that there are some divine masculine feminine things that this particular reading is calling into attention. Well, the rebirth of the masculine, I think this is, what does that highest version of a masculine energy look like to you? I think there's a rebirth of that happening, because honestly, I think men think that they need to put everything on their shoulders, and um, there's one of two things: they take everything on and they're overwhelmed, or they are in situations where they are demasculated, and so they just say, never mind, I'm not going to do anything. The woman's got it. She's gone through all of her, ascension and awakening, and now she can do everything a man can do. Those kinds of antiquated ways of looking at this. This is not about sexuality. This is not about anything other than energy. So the masculine energy is this principle of, I'm actually even going to say the ascension itself is a masculine trait, because it's actively moving, and changing. But the divine feminine is the initiator, that is like, I'm open to change. And so then there are divine actions that come after that are masculine and yang. And then you do things, and then it leads you to a higher timeline, right? You're not going to get to a higher timeline without the masculine and the feminine, but the feminine does come first. Because where does anything that happens in the physical start? It happens in the mind. Internally focused comes into external focus. And I have found that sometimes things take a really long time to come from in my mind out. But as the years have gone by, maybe I'm a little bit better at it. Maybe things are just speeding up and the world is changing. But I feel like that difference from mind to matter is shortening. And so a lot of people talk about instant manifestation. I don't really buy into any of that, because it just doesn't feel true to what my life experience has been. Um, it's normally a little bit slower. And what I mean by that is, you might be experiencing an ascension at this time that you were kind of being told about 3 years prior, but you didn't understand the messaging. So you're confused. Now you're actually in the throes of like, I haven't made those changes. I'm being forced into it by energetics, my guides. I don't have choice anymore. I'm being shoved into a higher timeline. Like, sometimes the ascension can be like that, but the feminine energy of the initiating of that, like preparing, happened many months or years before. And now it's time to make that shift. Now, I do find that, again, that time frame might not be 3 years anymore. It might be 3 months. It might even be, I don't want to say 3 weeks. That feels a little short, but 3 months, there's a lot that can internally shift within the mind in 3 months' time. And I have a very large change that I know is coming in my life, and I feel it. And I have been given signs and synchronicities for months now. And I know that it's preparing me for a different time in my life. And it's very exciting. And I find myself going, oh boy, I can't wait. But I'm happy where I'm at now, right? I don't know when this thing is going to happen. Very happy about it, but I don't know when. So there are things that you're going to start to feel, or you're going to remember now if the ascension is happening. Like, oh shit, this was foretold. My body was telling me this years ago, months ago. So the rebirth of how we get things done is necessary here, because the feminine is the initiator. You don't just spring into action anymore. That's not the way things in divine alignment are done. They're done by being initiated by the intuition, which is the feminine. So again, this could be a process of a physical person that's with another physical person, or it could be one person experiencing the feminine energy and then the masculine energy together. So take it as it resonates for you in your situation. This could be talking about more divine alignments where the feminine energy is finally listened to by the masculine. And maybe the masculine in question, right, in this situation, is not actually experiencing the intuitive nudges of their own accord in their own mind. It's being brought to them by an external person. This could be a mother, a sister, a partner. It doesn't really matter. I'm trying to give you the understanding that we're talking about energy. So everyone's situation and how this energy meets this energy is going to be different, but the result is the same. You are being initiated, right? We are being initiated to step into a higher timeline, to ascend. And you're going to have a feminine energy that gives you that. It's going to be your intuition and or an external feminine energetic signature, right? So this could even be something like inspiration. I'm feeling like there are people for which they're creative, or they feel like they're a creator, but they haven't felt their muse or their inspiration coming to them like they want. And the muse finally hitting at that right time is that intuitive kind of nudge, like, okay, take the inspired action, now paint the picture, now write the book. And they were like, I was a writer who never wrote anything, and now all of a sudden I'm writing. And you're feeling divinely inspired. This is that divine energy moving through someone who's called to be a writer. That's how it's going to manifest, and that's going to ascend them through the writings, through the musings, through that energy that's coming through them that's not really them, but they're a channel for it. This is how that could, manifest in one person. But again, it could be divine masculines finally getting what they need from a divine feminine energy to like kind of pitch them into their higher timeline. So this is talking about the distorted masculine, which means we could be talking about physically, masculine energies who are not in their highest timeline, or on a larger scale, this is how we've been doing things. Go, do, action. Well, what do I do? I don't know. Just go, start doing something. And there's something to be said about just beginning. And I'm using this example of writing. I don't know why I'm being called to speak on the energetic process of feeling ready to write. Some famous writers talk about just start to write. You don't have to know what you're going to write, but just start to write. And sometimes that physical action can just get the muse flowing, and then the divine writing can happen. But for the most part, I feel like the waiting and the gestating can look different for each person and situation. But it's like that moment where things are becoming pregnant within you. The idea is growing inside you. And then all of a sudden, the action, the divinely inspired action is like, now go physically do the thing, right? There's huge benefit to the wait, to the pregnancy of whatever, you're doing before the action. So this idea of just taking action to take action, it's not the way anymore. That's not where we're going. That's not what's going to get us where we are going. There is an emotional freedom I definitely feel in trusting a process that is waiting. I have been harnessing this power very powerfully for about 3 years now, and it's been very difficult for me. There was a very, very difficult period in my life where I was not being given any other option than to wait. And I am someone who is used to making shit happen for myself because I'm a powerful, divine woman. Okay, great. What happens when the universe cuts you off at the knees and makes you fucking wait? Oh shit. I need to lean into my intuition. I need to learn when to move only when I'm encouraged by some deep force within me to move. There's emotional freedom in that. We're not running around like chickens with our heads cut off anymore. We are waiting for our own divine inspiration to move. It's like, let's just say, you spread out into like 5 or 6 different people. You're on some sort of stealth mission, right? And you are listening to you, but it's all different versions of you. And it's like, this version is like, okay, you're going to go. You're going to wait. You're going to wait and you're going to wait. And then when I get to this checkpoint, I'm going to tell the next person, and they're going to, that's what's internally happening for us to step into a higher timeline. There are so many little moving parts within us that shift and change that I think we are being called to understand. And so the emotional freedom that I'm seeing here is for those parts of you that are waiting to be given the next cue. You are purposefully placed in a holding time so that you can play your part when it is time and only when it is time. Because when you move with that energy, you can get 100 times more done energetically because you've waited for that. We'll call it the slingshot. I'm thinking of Talladega Nights. Slingshot, engage, right? It's that moment where, one action takes you 1,000 steps. That's why the time frame is shortening, because these slingshots are going even further than they've ever gone before. So I'm looking at the time. I want to keep this a little bit, shorter, but it's already too long for my liking. I really want to talk about this emotional freedom. The sexuality card, I actually want to pull a clarifier on that particular card because I don't think we want to get into a conversation about sex magic in this particular reading. I just want to clarify that. Okay. So I keep hearing, the idea of intimacy is not what you think. The idea of intimacy is not what you think. So this speaks of understanding when you're horny and understanding when you just want actual connection with someone. There's a deep understanding that we need to offer ourselves that love that we weren't given. And I had really, practical parents. They were both Tauruses. They were born like 2 days apart. And so I always joke that I was hit over the head with the practicality stick as I was coming out the womb, right? There was no time for silliness, not silliness, but like frivolity or things that were kind of like unnecessary luxury. It was like, just stick to what you need. That will be enough. Just do what you need to do. Just focus on your work. Just, that was the energy that I grew up with. So for me, a reparenting for myself is maybe allowing myself to do things that I would have previously thought a little too decadent, a little unnecessary. My mother still thinks that pedicures are an unnecessary thing. I think it's hygienic. So I get pedicures. There's just that understanding of differences there. But a deep understanding of loving yourself, because if you notice, that's her and her younger self. That's not her mother and her. That's her older self, adult self, and her child self. So I am speaking with adults here, I'm sure, that understand that, their sexuality is a beautiful thing, but it is a deeper call to intimacy, not only with yourself, but with that divinely inspired partner. Because again, there's a lot of energy here of this energy being rebirthed into this energy. I mean, a man or a masculine energy that has this beautiful lion heart energy, that's really sexy. Again, there is an understanding of the feminine coming into her highest awareness of who she is, that ascension of that feminine energy, so that the masculine can do his part. So understand, this is an internal process that we are experiencing as an individual, but it is also probably something we're going to experience with an external person as well. So I think I'm going to close this reading here. I feel like I've rambled a lot. I will be back tomorrow with another reading, but I wanted to talk about energetic maintenance because I think it's a very important topic for those of us who are in the healing fields and who are really feeling energetically polluted. You are being thrown around by energies that are not yours often. So I'm going to put a link in the show notes to a fascinating book that I've been reading. I want to continue to dive into, and hopefully I can interview this man on my podcast. I do have a podcast. It's called Something Worth Saying, and it is esoteric conversations that are made very practical and digestible. I am a Virgo sun sign. I was raised by 2 Taurus parents. Of course, I'm going to bring the most woo-woo knowledge into the most practical explanation I can, but I think that's needed right now because fluffy esoteric stuff is not going to integrate those lower chakras with the higher chakras. We need practical explanations of these things. We need to demystify it. So that's what I'm here to do. So anyway, this conversation with hopefully the author of the book, The Others Within Us, talks about the energies that are not ours, that influence us and can throw us for a loop constantly. Okay? These energies are running rampant. They always have been, but because of the permeating energy of fear that's being just amplified in the atmosphere, I don't know how else to say it. That fear that's being amplified in the atmosphere leaves our energetic system more susceptible to these energies to come in. And yes, they are separate entity beings. We're not talking about our demons that we have to deal with. We're talking about actual separate beings who are around us, influencing us, whispering to us all the time. And if you are not internally focused enough to understand what's you and what's not you, you're going to be confused. So I think we're coming into a time where even if you're naturally externally focused, bring that awareness in, because it is necessary. It's not a luxury anymore. It can't be a personality trait. Oh, I just focus externally. You need to pull it in and understand, I'm acting not like myself. I wonder why that is. Cleanse your energy, because there could be something within your field whispering in your ear that is not you, that takes you off your path or mildly annoys you, right? The beings that I'm talking about could be something from a minor inconvenience to a major issue, right? And these are huge topics. I'm just kind of dumping this information at the end of this episode, but I really want to talk to the author of the book, The Others Within Us, to have deeper, more in-depth conversations about things that people don't understand. And this is not about a theatrical exorcism like you've seen in the movies. This is a lot more practical, and it's happening daily. You know, this is energetic maintenance in a way that we have never ever talked about in society before. So I'm here to bring these things, give you the information, be like, it's okay, calm down, we know how to cleanse these things, it's not a big deal. If you have another entity attached to you, it's really not a big deal. It happens quite often. We are not alone here. There are other energies constantly swirling around us. And so this is a big part of, I think, the ascension that we're talking about, is understanding this. So there's a lot more I want to say on this topic. This video is already far too long. Thank you if you stayed till the end of this video. If you're interested in my podcast, I have all the links for all of my other, content creator fun below. And if this reading had value for you, I am going to put like a donate link there, but you can always buy one of my digital products in my digital shop as a thank you and get something for it. So I encourage you to check that out as well. Thank you so much, and I hope this reading had value. Until next time.